There is a difference between concern and a heart that has been hijacked by fear, and most people do not notice when they have crossed from one into the other. Concern is human. A believer is not asked to become careless in order to appear calm, but anxiety does something different. It does not just make you think, it begins to dominate how you think. It fills the mind with outcomes that have not happened. It turns possibilities into emotional realities, and slowly it becomes difficult to live in the present because your heart is permanently bracing for what might come next. So the anxious heart is not usually a faithless heart. Sometimes a person is simply tired. Sometimes they have carried too much for too long. And sometimes they have seen enough pain that the heart becomes overly alert, scanning constantly, but resting rarely. That deserves to be said clearly because shaming an anxious person with shallow reassurances does not help them. It just adds guilt to an already exhausted soul. What anxiety does at its worst is shrink the world down to the size of your fear. It makes tomorrow feels larger than Allah's care. It makes uncertainty feel more powerful than divine decree. This is why the anxious heart does not only need comfort, it needs reorientation. It needs to be reminded that not every thought deserves trust, not every fear deserves surrender, and not every closed door is a sign that something is falling apart. This is where tawakkul becomes essential. Not as a slogan, not as a way of dismissing real distress, but as a way of placing fear back in its proper size. Tawakkul does not mean you feel nothing, it means fear does not become your master. You take the means that is available to you. You make dua as you should, you act with responsibility, and then you refuse to let your heart bow to what has not yet happened. So perhaps what some heart needs is not the pressure to simply stop worrying. Perhaps what they need is something quieter and more honest, to slow down, to return from imagined futures back to the present reality, and to trust that heart can be unsettled without being abandoned. Feeling anxious does not mean your fate has failed you, but it may mean your heart needs to be gently brought back to perspective, back to dependence on Allah, back to the truth that whatever tomorrow holds, it will still arrive under the care of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.